The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented.
Hi, and welcome to Wonderfully Made. My name is Cheryl McWilliams, and our guest today is Dr. Timothy Howe. Hi, Dr. Howe, and thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be with you. This is a wonderful program on Wonderfully Made. Certainly our Creator has made us wonderfully.
Absolutely. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that I find very interesting. It seems that whenever I'm in the supermarket or the store these days, I'm seeing ads for vitamins and supplements, folks even knocking on my door requesting that I listen to their information about their particular brand or vitamin. I'm really confused on which ones are the best ones to take and how do I know and really what to do. So I'm hoping you can shed some light on this topic.
Vitamins and supplements are a very interesting topic. We know from hundreds of scientific studies that the more vitamins and minerals you get in your food, the richer your diet is in antioxidants, the less heart disease you'll have, the less cancer you have, the less infections you'll have. And we are so interested as people, of course, to have less cancer and heart disease and less infections, less chronic diseases. So we assume that if you need more and more is better, then let's open up a bottle and get them. Because of that idea, scientists started several big studies to answer the question, will taking vitamins help us? One of the best studies done was published in 1994 in the New England Journal of Medicine. It's referred today to as the Finnish study. What they did is they took a large group of men who were all smokers. From our studies in populations looking at their diets, we knew that taking vitamin A, beta-carotene, vitamin E, alpha-tocopherol would lower the risk of cancer. If you get it in your diet, it lowers your risk. Let's give you a little more in a pill form and see if it helps even more. So they did that study and they found something very interesting. They found that in the men that they supplemented vitamin A or beta-carotene and vitamin E, their risk of cancer didn't go down, it went up. It actually went up. Now that is a little frightening. The last thing that I want to do is go out to the store and buy these wonderful vitamins and find out that as a result of taking them, I have a higher cancer risk.
Absolutely. We take them supposedly to decrease our risk of disease, and not to mention they're extremely expensive, or at least the ones that I've seen. People spend a lot of money on this stuff.
They certainly do spend a lot of money. They couldn't believe that study. You know, they scratched their heads and they said, how can this be? We have hundreds of studies, literally hundreds of studies, showing that if we get more beta-carotene and antioxidants and vitamins in our diet, we'll have a lower risk. And yet when we give them to people from a pill bottle, the risk goes up. What's at play here? Well, they had to repeat the study. And so they did another study. It's called the CARET study. Not R-R-O-T, but C-A-R-E-T, CARET study, published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1996. In that study, they also supplemented vitamin A and vitamin E. You know, they found early on in the study that cancer rates went up and heart disease rates went up. In fact, it was such a marked change that they stopped the study because people were dying from supplementing these vitamins.
Wow.
They went back and looked at the Finnish study and did subgroup analysis and found something very interesting. What they found is in the people that had the highest intake of beta-carotene in their diets, they were the ones that had the lowest risk of cancer at the end of the study. So you have sort of a conundrum here. If you have a high amount of beta-carotene in your food, you have a low risk of cancer. If you add vitamin A or beta-carotene in from a pill, you have a high risk. Confusing, isn't it?
Very confusing.
Yeah. Interesting, though, what they failed to realize is beta-carotene is only one of over 600 different types of carotene. And I can't tell you which one of those 600 might be important, but I can tell you that if you take excess beta-carotene, you will interfere with the absorption of those other carotenes or carotenoids, carotene-like compounds. Balance is what we're after. It's very important to maintain that careful balance of nutrients found in our food.
So what I hear you saying is that it's better to actually get our nutrients, our vitamins, from the food that we eat as opposed to a pill.
Absolutely. You know, when I eat my vegetables and when I eat my fruits, I'm kind of particular. I don't like to eat old fruit, you know, that's a little bit bad, or I don't like wilted vegetables. I like them fresh. Now, the last time you ate your vitamins, did you open up the bottle and say, I wonder if you're fresh? You know, how long has it been since those vitamins were fresh?
I simply look at the expiration date.
Well, is that what you do with fruit and vegetables? I think it's very important to have your vitamins fresh. Plus, the last time you looked at your vitamin pill, your bottle, you know, if you look at it, there's a whole long list. Vitamin A, vitamin B, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, all of these things. But are you sure you're getting them in the right balance? And what about the ones that aren't mentioned there? For instance, blueberries. Now, blueberries are an interesting fruit. They're one of the richest, the very richest in antioxidants. Do you know that blueberries have over 150 phytochemicals in them?
Wow.
Now, does your vitamin pill have over 150 phytochemicals? I doubt it. And that's only one, where there are many other fruits and vegetables, aren't there? Another one that people have looked at is vitamin E. You perhaps have some friends. I'm sure you wouldn't take vitamin E, but maybe you have some friends that are taking vitamin E. We used to say, you have to have vitamin E for your heart. It will reduce your heart disease risk. And indeed, vitamin E does seem to thin the blood. But it doesn't reduce your risk of heart disease. In fact, it's not recommended any longer that you take vitamin E to reduce your risk of heart disease. Not only does heart disease not go down very much, but your risk of having a hemorrhagic stroke goes up. So you take your vitamin E to help your heart, you don't help your heart, and on the other hand, you have a stroke. What kind of a trade is that?
Doesn't sound like much of a bargain to me.
Not one that I'd want.
Something that I've read recently is that it seems that in some of the cases of vitamins that perhaps what's listed on the bottle isn't necessarily what's inside.
Well, that may be the case because they're not controlled by the FDA. They put on there what they put on there, and there's not a lot of oversight. Furthermore, just because it has the vitamin listed on the bottle doesn't mean that it is well absorbed. When the vitamin is in the food, usually it's very well absorbed the way it's presented to your body. But not necessarily so in the pill.
I have a saying that if humans have messed with it, they probably messed it up. And this seems like a good example of that.
Yes, I think there's some truth in that.
Another question I have is related to the source of these vitamins. Not long ago, I was prescribed a prenatal vitamin as a result of a pregnancy. And I went to the pharmacy in order to inquire about this and ask the source of the vitamin. Where did the vitamin come from? Was it an animal source or vegetable source, synthetic? Where exactly did it come from? The pharmacist didn't have a clue and was most uninterested in learning. He gave me a number. I called the number and learned that many of the vitamins in this particular brand came from animal sources, and a number of them came from pig, from swine. That was a problem for me, so I went back to the pharmacist and said, this is what I learned, and can you help me find a vitamin that does not contain at least pig products? And that was a concern for him due to religious considerations. So he started, and of that particular pharmacy, which is a very well-known pharmacy, they did not have a vitamin, a prenatal vitamin, which did not contain animal products, and specifically, pig. And that was primarily related to vitamin D, but that was shocking to me.
Yes, many of the vitamins, their source is not identified on the bottle. Vitamin B12 comes from animals specifically. It is not naturally occurring in plant food. It has to be from an animal source. Even the vitamin B12 in the soil, and this is one question that has to be answered for vegans. Now, vegans, they don't have anything, they don't eat anything that had a mother or has a face or came from an animal. It's just fresh fruits and vegetables and grains and nuts. And the only place that they get B12 is from the little bacteria in the soil on root vegetables and on vegetables as the soil splashes up on them. And that isn't a very rich source. All other B12 comes from animal sources, unless it's synthesized, made in the laboratory. You can get synthetic B12, and then it doesn't come from your animal source. Vitamin D, another classic example. We get it from sunshine. You're a vegan, I know, so am I. And we get vitamin D from sunshine. But apart from that, the only sources of vitamin D are animal sources. Now, if your pharmacist was a Muslim, or if he was a Seventh-day Adventist, that would be important to him, or Jewish, to know that most vitamins contain B12 from animal sources, and almost always it's from pigs or swine that they get it.
Interesting, interesting. Is there ever a time when a person should supplement and use vitamins from pills?
That's a good question, and let's first of all go back to B12. In the studies that have been done, if today you had adequate B12 in your system, and I said, all right, no more B12, none, it would take about 20 to 30 years for you to become deficient in B12 if you didn't have a problem with reabsorption of B12 from your gut back up to your liver, and as long as you were recycling it normally, you would not become deficient.
What would cause you to not be able to do that normally?
If you had a deficiency of intrinsic factor in your gut, and that would be B12 deficiency or pernicious anemia can cause that. Now, there are varying degrees of pernicious anemia or failure to absorb B12. You can have someone who just has a slight problem with intrinsic factor or absorption. People that have, for instance, had a partial gastrectomy because they were obese and wanted to lose weight, they may be deficient. Or if there's a disease of the terminal ileum, they may become deficient in B12. If there's a question and you are on a strict vegan diet, get a B12 level tested. It's a very simple laboratory test, and if you are a little bit low or tending toward that side, even in the normal range, it's a good idea to have a synthetic supplement. But that's not the majority of people. The majority of us get plenty of B12. B12 is found in many of our milk, milk substitutes. Of course, it is in milk itself, but much of the soy milk and nut milks they have B12 added, so that's not a problem. Many of the dry cereals have B12 added too, so that's a very unlikely situation, B12 deficiency, as long as you don't have a medical problem. But if you are a vegan, have it tested if you have a question, particularly if you don't have a regular source of B12. Apart from B12, I don't know of any situation where taking multivitamins and antioxidants will help you, except there are a few studies in the elderly showing that they may do better if they have a multivitamin supplement. Well, why is that? You know, I work with a lot of elderly people, and you'll find that after their spouse dies, it's really hard to fix good food. And instead of having their fresh vegetables and fresh fruit, they just have something out of a box. Usually pour a little milk on it, and they have dry cereal or something like that, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They don't get a good diet. Well, is it better for them to take it out of a pill bottle, or would it be better for them to eat a wider variety of fresh fruits and vegetables? Of course, it would be better to get it from a good source. If you just take it out of the bottle, you're going to get beta carotene, but how about those other 599 carotenes? You may need them, and in fact, you do.
There are many who talk about the depletion in terms of soil, and that they take supplements because our soil is in such poor shape, and that without supplements, because of the situation in the soil, that they just wouldn't be healthy. I'm not sure what to think about that.
Well, they have a point, because if your soil is deficient in selenium, for instance, then the food isn't going to contain as much selenium. If it's deficient in boron, the food isn't going to have quite as much boron. But that's not that common, number one. And number two, it does not apply to vitamins and antioxidants because they don't come from the soil. The plants manufacture them with sunlight. Even if you have a hydroponic tomato that's just grown in the greenhouse, if it has that good, deep, rich red color, it's going to have plenty of those lycopenes that are so important in the prevention of prostate cancer. If you have kale or collards grown wherever, if the soil's deficient but they have that deep green color, they're still going to have their vitamin A and their vitamin C. They're still going to have the folate. They're still going to have everything you need, maybe the minerals. I say, if in doubt, grow some your own. Grow your own, you know. It's not a bad idea in the summer. Try organic gardening. I have a son that's an organic gardener, and he has a Maine Organic Farmer and Gardening Association. Everything he sells is certified organic. And when I eat that, I think, well, I am set. And we usually are. It doesn't hurt to grow a few or buy organic. Is it necessary? No, it isn't absolutely necessary. Are there toxins in our food? Sure, there are toxins in our food. There's mercury in water everywhere on this planet. It's not ideal, but it's important for us to eat low on the food chain to avoid some of those. And that's fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains. You'll get all of your antioxidants. If you want to make sure you're getting the full spectrum, you want to go for the colors. You want the deep reds. You want the greens, those living greens. You want the yellows. They're very important. You want different types at different seasons, and you'll get the full flavor, and you'll get all of the antioxidants and vitamins you need. You don't have to think about, what did I do with my vitamin A? If you're getting the deep green and the yellow. You don't need to think about vitamin E if you're getting seeds and nuts, it's not a problem. You don't need to think about, well, am I getting enough vitamin C to stop my colds? You know, the good thing about vitamin C is that you don't get it toxic very easily on it, because if you take it and don't need it, it's excreted in the urine. Many of these are, you know, you might say that it's wonderful all the vitamins we're taking in this country. We have the most vitamin-rich sewers in the world.
There are many parents who, out of concern for their children, give their children vitamins, and they usually wash it down with a glass of juice. What should parents think about as it relates to vitamin supplementation?
I don't think parents should supplement vitamins. I think they should give their children good food. Good food is the best supplement there is. Bar none, it is the best. That's what the studies show. If you get it in your food, lower cancer risk, lower heart disease risk, lower stroke risk, lower infection risk. If you get it in a bottle, you may be harming yourself. That's not only true with the vitamins, it's also true with iron. You know, you hear a lot about antioxidants. Do you know that iron is the most potent pro-oxidant in your body?
Wow.
Oh, you need iron. You need it. But too much iron will cause problems. It will increase cancer rates. It will increase your problems with heart disease. In fact, some people think, and I think wisely so, that one of the main reasons why women don't have the rates of heart disease that men do is because they're menstruating every month and they're keeping their iron stores low. As soon as that stops, women's rate of heart disease quickly catches men, just from too much iron. Now, iron deficiency isn't good either, but if you're not iron deficient, if your hemoglobin and hematocrit are normal, please don't supplement iron. You won't be helping yourself. You'll be hurting yourself. There's a whole disease category of iron overload, hemochromatosis. It's not that uncommon, and it's getting to be a problem. Hemochromatosis, increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of cancer, increased risk of diabetes, increased risk of liver problems, all from iron overload. Don't supplement iron. If you are going to take a multivitamin, make sure it doesn't have iron, unless you're iron deficient. You have a low amount of hemoglobin or a low hematocrit, and that can be very easily tested.
So we should, instead of thinking about which pill to take, we should think about the colors of the rainbow.
That's right. You know, I often say, if you're an artist, you like a palette with many colors on it when you're painting your picture. And think of the artist when you eat. You want many colors to pass your palette. If you do, you'll get plenty of antioxidants. Some people ask, well, what foods are best? What foods are richest in antioxidants? Well, in fresh foods, the ones that top the list are the ones I like the most in the fruits. It's blueberries and strawberries. They top the list for fresh fruits. If you go to dry, raisins are very high, and prunes are very high in antioxidants. They're also high in vitamins, of course. In the vegetables, it's kale, and then you go to broccoli, you pick up tomatoes, you pick up peppers, you pick up collard greens, all the green leafy vegetables and the vegetables with rich colors are where you get the antioxidants from. And they're the ones that will reduce your risk of chronic disease.
So if we eat our food the way the good Lord grew it, then perhaps we'd be better off than trying to get nutrition from a bottle.
You know, you will never find health in a bottle. You'll never find it. You'll find health in making wise choices and making decisions and following through with them. Sometimes we get the idea that, you know, there's just something missing in my diet. You know, that is true. There is something missing in your diet and in mine, but I don't think we can find it here. It left many years ago, and that was what? The tree of life I think somewhere in our collective consciousness, if you will, we know that there's a missing part in our lives. The tree of life isn't here, but we do have something that is available, and Jesus told us what that is. He said, if you want life, you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. You must dwell in me, and I in you, if you want eternal life. And you know, sometimes I think this desire to find that elixir of life, really what we're doing is we are looking for life in the wrong place. And if we would focus on Jesus and the life He gives and the food He's given us, read it right there in Genesis. You'll find it. And He gave them, and it tells you just what to eat right there in Genesis. And if we follow that and look for life in our Lord and Savior, then we'll have not only abundant life here. Remember what He said, I came to give them life and to give it more abundantly. We'll have life here and we'll have eternal life instead of looking in a bottle and counting our pills and spend. You know how much we spend in this country on vitamins and vitamin supplementation?
It's a lot.
Billions. $3 or $4 billion we spend. And are we helping ourselves? No. We're hurting ourselves. We are actually worsening our health instead of improving it. Please don't supplement any beta-carotene or vitamin A. Don't do it. Don't supplement vitamin E. Don't do it. It raises your risk of disease. Vitamin C, it's touted as wonderful. We excrete a lot of it. But if you supplement vitamin C, there's some evidence that you'll increase your risk for heart disease. Macular degeneration, everyone's taking vitamins for this. 3 fruits a day will reduce your risk of macular degeneration markedly. Go for the fruits, go for the vegetables, and most importantly, Jesus is the Word of life. He is our tree of life here. And if we focus on Him rather than on a bottle, then we'll have life. Life, not only now, but forever.
So it seems though God grew our food perfectly.
I think He did. You know, it's unlikely that He would design us and give us a poor fuel. And if we follow His instruction manual, I think our bodies will run quite well.
It's obvious that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and our food was made well too. So if we follow the instruction we've been given, then perhaps we can spend less money on supplements and more attention on eating the rich foods that Christ has so abundantly blessed us with. Thank you, Dr. Howe, and thank you, audience, for joining us today.